Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for our community office hour. This week we are discussing 1Password shell plugins. We're super excited about this release because it's really one of the first open source efforts that we've made as a company. We've had developer tools since March of last year, and we've got some really great tool sets and capabilities that allow you to manage your SSH keys. Manage your SSH keys, but within our tool, use our CLI. Integrate with VS Code, but this one's really exciting to us because we basically built this so that it can be contributed by anyone out there. So we're really excited to A, present it, and B, answer any questions, and C, we have a guest host, Kanad Gupta, who is the developer advocate at Readme, which is an amazing docs and portal building tool that we'll talk about later, and he's going to come on and talk about what it was like to build one of our first plugins that was contributed by the community. And it was actually one of the first ones that was built by a company. So we'll go ahead and get into the overview. Next slide, please, Simon. So just as a overview, we're gonna do introductions. So we'll introduce myself, Simon, and Amanda. We'll go over what shell plugins is and give you a timeline of the rollout. And then we'll get into how to do an install, how to do a demo, and then we'll discuss, the README parts, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So let's go ahead and dig into introductions. Simon, next slide, if you could. My name is Jason Harris. I am one of our principal platform evangelists. I get to do DevRel for 1Password's developer relations. I get to do advocacy for our developer tools and do events like this, do live events. I'm one of the main people behind our written content and our community, the community parts of our dev portal. So it's a really fun place to be because we have, as you're going to see in a second, we have a developer team that is extremely talented, but also extremely talented at extending to the community. Hey, Simon, why don't you go ahead and intro yourself, please?
I had to find the unmute button there. Hi everyone, I'm Simon. As it says on the slide, I'm a developer on this team. So really excited to show you what we built here, and Amanda's going to do that, and then answer any questions that you might have. So excited to have you here.
Over to you, Amanda.
All right, I'm Amanda. I am a developer on the terminal integrations team, and I'm hoping my demo goes smoothly, but if not, it's a demo.
Thanks. Next slide, please, Simon. So to introduce what shell plugins is we all know that the CLI is one of the developers' most used tools. You may have already been familiar with 1Password's developer tool set, our SSH agent, VS Code integration, CLI. What's really cool about this one is we all know that the CLIs are great, but logging into them can be a total pain. And so this offering brings the security and ease of use of biometrics, so being able to use your fingerprint or your Windows Hello to securely authenticate to third-party CLIs. We have come out with, I think we launched with 11 shell plugins. I think now we have, I think we're up to 20, Simon, I can't remember. But what's really cool is if you are a developer who uses a CLI and our shell plugins doesn't address a CLI you need to use on a daily basis, you can actually build your own. And that's what we're here to talk about. So I am going to hand it over to Amanda for the meat of what we're here to talk about. Amanda, take it away.
Sounds good. If you want to go to the next slide. So I'm just going to kind of go through a little brief overview of kind of the timeline. So early last year, we released SSH and CLI 2.0. You loved using Touch ID in the terminal. And we kind of extrapolated from that we don't like typing passwords in the terminal. We're obviously not a fan of keeping keys and passwords on disk. So we started thinking about what more we can do to make your lives easier. Next slide. So in kind of the August-September timeline, we did a shell plugin sneak preview. So you got to use shell plugins for the first time, gave a lot of feedback so that we could keep iterating. We kind of started with the quick wins with the most popular and easiest CLIs to integrate with. So we got some validation, and then we kind of templated it a bit to make it easy to add more shell plugins. Next slide. So we released shell plugins in early December. We released with about 12-ish of our own plugins. And let me just And then at the same time that we released our stable release of shell plugins, we also launched our open source offering, which was, so we open sourced the plugin ecosystem, so you can also build plugins for your own tooling. It's extensible. You can make it work for your own environment. I'm going to be demoing kind of how quick it is to bootstrap a new plugin. I just want to say we've already had over 8 contributions from the community of plugins. So I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to those who have added plugins. We're really excited about it. And if you don't feel like writing a plugin, you can always request one and someone might pick it up. So now we're kind of looking a bit to the future. So we're looking to improve the experience. We would love more people to contribute so that we can, you can let us know how it goes. We can make it better. We can do everything we can to make this a community-driven project. So I'm gonna can you hit the next slide? All right, so I'm gonna do a quick, hopefully quick demo. Yes, I'm gonna boot you out. All right, so can everyone see my screen all right? Excellent. So the first part of the demo, I hope I actually did this. So we have, whoops. Right now, we have a pretty reasonable library of plugins that you can install and just get going using the CLI. So I'm going to just do a quick demo. I'm pretty sure I've cleared all of the plugin info from my workspace, so I'll be starting from scratch, hopefully. So I'm just going to get started with the GitHub CLI. So if we head over to our documentation for the GitHub CLI, so you can see we have a list of requirements. You need to sign up for 1Password. There's a brew command that you can install 1Password 8 and the 1Password CLI together at the same time, so that part's pretty quick. And then the GitHub CLI, obviously. So the first command to configure my default credentials and get it set up is just op plugin init. So first it's asking me to authenticate because I'm configuring OP. So I'm gonna just hit that with my fingerprint. So I already have a GitHub personal access token. If you hit the question mark, it will tell you where to go get one and a few more details about it. But mine's already in 1Password, so I don't need to import it. I don't have it anywhere on my workspace. The only place that my access token is in 1Password. So I just have it called GitHub CLI. So I'm going to select that. So I've got 3 options. I can either be prompted for each new terminal session to choose what credential to use. That's helpful if you have a lot of different GitHub accounts. I can make it directory specific, so if you have a lot of different projects. And lastly, you can just set as a global default. I only have 1 GitHub account, so I'm going to set it as a global default. So that's got the credentials there. And I meant to show right now, I'm not authenticated with GitHub CLI. So I'm going to run the source command so that it finishes the configuration. And then I'm going to run that issue list command. Actually, I'm going to run it from a new terminal just because I'm already authenticated in that one. So it's not going to prompt me for my Touch ID, which is kind of the fun part. So as you can see, I just ran the command GitHub issue list, and it's prompting me to use Touch ID. I'm going to put my finger on that. No, I am not in the right directory to use it, but I am authenticated. So that's kind of the demo of how quick it is to configure and set up just using shell plugins for the first time. So if you have 5 minutes today, I'd recommend giving it a try. Or if you really have no interest in contributing a plugin, you can just do that right now, and then you can ask any questions if you run into any issues at the end. So I'm gonna go ahead. I made a nice little empty demo directory. And I'm going to use the GitHub CLI to fork the shell plugins repo. So you can see over here, I'm just going to go back to show where I got that from. So I'm back to the list of all of the existing CLIs that we support. And then the tool that I want to use is not listed, so I'm going to start the process of building my own plugin. This is kind of in beta, but it's pretty stable. So there's some requirements here, kind of the similar things, plus some extra workspace type things. So I'm going to head over to the repository. So you can see it's just 1Password shell plugins. So I'm going to go back and actually fork that repo and clone it. So that was done using the GitHub CLI that I had already authenticated to using my Touch ID. So now we're going to go into shell plugins and follow the instructions to run make new plugins. So I did a little bit of looking around as to what CLI I wanted to add support for. And I decided on Netlify. So we're gonna get started with building it. So the plugin name is gonna be Netlify. And then the platform is gonna be Netlify once again. The executable is also Netlify, so nice and straightforward. And I believe it's a personal access token. Let me just take a look. Yeah, so it's a personal access token. And then I'm just going to type in some gibberish for the example credential. So that's kind of all that's required to bootstrap it. Now, I'm just going to do a quick show of what it entails. So here's the new folder that it created. So Netlify, here I'll open some docs just to reference. So it's Netlify CLI, so that's what I was hoping it would be called, so we can remove the to do. Netlify.com/docs/CLI. I would say it's more likely, oops. There's the docs that I want to point to. All right, so here's just going to update that and remove that to do. So that's the first file, done and dusted. Next up, let's see, netlify.com. I'm going to point it to app.netlify.com. All right. So this is the second file, just one little to do in it. Oops, I didn't want the test, I wanted that one. All right. So the docs URL, we're gonna point that one right to, let me see if I can, That we haven't obtained the token right here. And then the actual token can be found in the user application section. So we can, let me just expand this a little bit. So that's been updated. Netlify token is not what it's actually called. It's Netlify auth token. There we go. So let's see if there's, I'm not going to bother right now with figuring out if there's a config file to import. I think there is, but that can be a problem for future me. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. And hope for the best. And then we're going to get rid of the associated test to go with it. So Netlify auth token. There's probably much more efficient ways for me to do it, but we're gonna get rid of the to-dos and check the test. Looks all right to start. All right, so those are just the 4 files that are bootstrapped. Next, we're gonna go back to building your own shell plugins and step 2. So I just kind of zoomed through there's a few more details here for editing the plugin definition, the credential definition, updating the provisioner and the importer, and then the executable one. So next, we're going to build and test the plugin locally. So we're going to do make Netlify / validate. Just a reminder that this is still in beta nicely for people. And then the next one, we're going to do build. And then we're going to do a list. And you can see that the Netlify plugin is listed as a local build. So I'm just going to check that I have Netlify set up in a way. All right, so you can see I'm currently unauthorized by Netlify. So we're going to hopefully get to a point where we can use this, but I'm not actually going to promise anything on that one. So all right. So I already created a token and put it in 1Password. So wonder what this looks like. Oh, no, not right now. All right. So we're gonna search a 1Password, Netlify. We're gonna set it as a global default, just like before. So let's see what happens when we run this command again. All right, so something went wrong. I don't know what it is. But I think I'm at the end of the time that I'm allotted for my demo. So I'm gonna hand it back to Jason and see if I can figure this out on my own.
Perfect, thank you. Simon, when you can, reshare the deck. We are gonna shift over to our little session with Kanad. Kanad, we wanted to talk to you about Readme. So give us an overview of Readme and your role there. And then we'll kind of ask a few questions about actually, you know what? Let me just hand it over to you. If you could touch on the bullet points in the slide, that'd be awesome. So how did you discover shell plugins? tell me how it was authoring the shell plugin, and tell us about that contribution process, because I do know probably have a few people on the call with an idea, and they're like, okay, you know, how is this in the real world? And then if you have any advice to those behind you building a shell plugin, tell us your point of view.
Yeah. Hey everybody, my name is Kanad. I go by he, him pronouns, based out of Minneapolis. I'm a developer advocate at Readme, and at Readme, yeah, if you want to build a spanking new developer hub for your API or dev tool, you should build it with Readme. We got, you know, interactive API Explorer, really cool ways to track your users' API usage, a lot of different tools to help your users be successful with your API. So that's Readme in a nutshell. And so we have the Readme CLI called RDME, and that is a tool for people if they're writing docs and say they're storing their GitHub docs or their Markdown docs on GitHub, they can sync those to their Readme hosted documentation. So I'm the lead maintainer of our CLI, and so when I saw that announcement, I think I follow y'all on Twitter. I think that's how I discovered the blog post announcement. I think Simon wrote that about announcing what shell plugins were. And yeah, I you know, went through pretty much the same process that Amanda did. Where I just like bootstrapped it. I saw a bunch of helpful to-dos. You know, definitely there. Like, I came in like I believe like I came in after the launch of the tool, and so there are already a handful of integrations I could kind of, you know, pull from for advice. I have never up until this, I'd never written a line of Go in my life. So I want to give a shout out to the Visual Studio Code, like the integration for Go, because that has been like so helpful. I can just like command click and kind of get some, kind of dig deep and get some context. And yeah, and also, you know, I was just struggling with like writing basic structs and arrays and whatnot in Go. And so I think, yeah, I've had like, I was working with Simon and Flores to help get some of my questions answered on that front. And I already saw that Flores made some like really great improvements, including to our integration on, you know, defining the list of acceptable commands that, you know, necessitate authentication and whatnot. So overall, I was just really happy with the contribution process. I think the attention to detail, you know, we've done various like partnerships and integrations and whatnot. And, you know, the fact that y'all went through the, like the thought and care to create a Readme project, run a demo command, create a really amazing little animated GIF of it that's embedded directly in your docs, directly like of the Readme CLI. That was really awesome. I'm using that. Thank you. I've been using that in all of our docs and whatnot too. Saves me some work. So that's been awesome. And yeah, it just like really feels like this has been I think Readme has gotten a real first party treatment on the platform, even though, you know, it was a third party contribution. And I see that with every single plugin that's on the platform. It just, you know, it has its own dedicated docs page. You know, they're actively being maintained. Oh, no way. Why is that? I'm from Woodbury. No way. All right, Nick. Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I feel like I've touched advice to others. Definitely get the Visual Studio Code Go extension. I've had, you know, 5 people jump in whenever I've had a question. It's been like very like folks have been very responsive. Definitely utilize the existing examples. Hopefully the plugin that I wrote is one of those examples that you use. Yeah, I think that Jason, any other kind of follow-up questions?
No, that's perfect. You've highlighted it. You've highlighted it well. I appreciate your shout outs to the team. That's been great. And you know what? I think at this point, Amanda has her demo sorted. So we're going to throw it back over to Amanda, and then we'll do Q&A. But Kanad, if you could stay on, help us join the Q&A in case there's something that comes up about contribution that we'd love to throw your way. So please do stay on.
Absolutely.
All right. Can you see my screen again fine?
Yes, we can. No problem.
Perfect. So this is where I left you off before, still getting unauthorized. And then Horia nicely pointed out that I needed to source my ZSHRC file. So I ran that command and then it worked beautifully. So it was just one little command that I missed for making sure that it actually finished the installation process. So that's it for the demo. I guess I should probably at some point make a PR, but that's it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, hey, now we want to open it up to everyone on the call and answer any questions. Simon, if you could pull up that Q&A slide, because there's some links that we want to show everyone after the fact. And then also another side note, we are going to send a follow-up email to everyone who RSVP'd for this event. And if there's any links, because we have a Zoom link in there, or sorry, we have a Slack link that's kind of hard, pain in the rear end to type in. So just wait for the deck. We'll send you a copy of the deck. So yeah, now we'd like to go open up for questions and answers. Are there any questions? You can either ask them verbally, or if you want, you can type them into the chat. So yeah, now you have Amanda and Simon and Kanad at your disposal. So please ask any questions that come to mind.
Yeah, hey, Nick Hodges here. I have two questions. One is, I noticed that it said install 1Password for Mac or Linux. Is Windows like excluded in some way? Did anybody hear me?
Sorry, yeah.
Yes, we can.
I was expecting Simon to jump in, my bad. We don't support Windows yet.
Okay, fair enough. And then my second question is, I'm the dev advocate for the Passage team. And so I'm wondering what technology did you use to link up the Touch ID stuff?
I can jump in on this one if you want. This is all using the same Touch ID functionality as 1Password 8 does. So the same way you unlock 1Password 8, you can also unlock the CLI, and that's integrating with the system authentication on the operating system level. So that's either Touch ID on Mac, it's on Linux. You can use like Polkit, and there are other ways to authenticate on Windows when that gets supported. There's Windows Hello, so you can authenticate face or PIN, and all kinds of options. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Really cool. I'm excited. Thank you.
Any other questions from those on the call? I have a few questions that came in to emails before we got started, so I'll pose those just to be sure that we are answering those. So Simon, Amanda, what plugins are already supported? Actually, let me throw that to Amanda. Can you tell us which ones are already supported? You don't have to name the whole list, but maybe give us a few highlights and then point us to where we'd find the answer.
Yeah, no problem. So when you go to our documentation page, I'm going to actually share the link in the chat.
Yeah, yes,
in
please.
case anyone feels like clicking on it. So we've got our list of currently supported shell plugins there. So we've got just some shout outs for AWS, Dogshell, GitHub, GitLab, HashiCorp Vault, Heroku, MySQL, Okta, Twilio, Sentry, and obviously Readme.
Perfect. What can I expect if I contribute a shell plugin? Talk to me about timelines and expectations. Simon, would you take that?
Yeah, I can take that one. So as soon as you submit your shell plugin on GitHub, then it will get to our team, and then we'll take a look at it, and then like Kanad already mentioned for the Readme thing, we really love the back and forth. Just send us your questions, and we'll have some discussion on best approaches. We really love all the feedback and back and forth. And then as soon as the MR is ready and we merge it in, it will be included in the next 1Password CLI release, and then it will be just available for everyone from there. That's about the process.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Kanad, can you touch on your plugin a little bit? Because I think you were learning Go for the first time. Tell us about that process, like what you saw how you modeled it and how you ultimately reached the finish line.
Yeah, certainly. Well, as was shown in Amanda's demo, there's a lot of helpful to-dos, and a lot of it was just kind of plug and play with, entering in the name of the environmental variables. I actually did actually update our CLI to support passing in M variables or API credentials via environmental variables, because we did not support that prior, and turns out that is a very common convention. And so yeah, we added that support. But yeah, on the the contribution side, I think it was ultimately using the built-in VS Code formatter on save to just make sure everything syntactically lined up. Just making sure all the to-dos were fulfilled. Using that make readme validate command and whatnot. So yeah, in terms of how it works specifically with readme, we have our own sort of API key management dashboard in readme, and we have the ability to provision different API keys for different scenarios or different CI pipelines or whatnot that you might set up. So it was nice to be able to I could just pop an API key into 1Password. It would show up via the plugin. And so it's kind of nice, because I think a lot of our customers are juggling a lot of API keys at once.
Yeah,
so.
Perfect. All right, great, thanks. I have another question. So if you have, okay, first let me stop. Are there any questions from those on the call? If you have any, either unmute and speak, or you can type it into the chat. If not, I have a question for Amanda. What if I have an idea for a CLI I'd like to integrate with, but I don't know how to get started? Either I have an idea and I need help, or I have an idea and I want someone else to run with it. But how would they go about raising the flag that they do need some help?
Definitely start with a GitHub issue. And if you make it far enough that you can make a pull request, you could do that. But just an issue with some questions, and we keep an eye on the repo for any questions that come in, so we can hopefully answer them. And there's some people that often like to contribute. So if there's some easy plugins, I wouldn't be surprised if there's other community members that pick them up.
Yeah, I'll actually attest to that. I just got off a customer call a half an hour ago with Soren, who is known as Shim on our Slack and you've seen him on GitHub. He actually said he's looking for other plugins to write. So he said he's willing to do some work. So if you have anything that might pique his interest, go ahead and submit an issue. I did have another question. One second. Oh yeah, Simon, can you speak a little bit to plugins that you build locally versus the ones that are in that stable release? You touched on your last answer, but if we could just go ahead and kind of cement that, do me that favor.
Yeah, right. So as you saw in Amanda's demo, she was building the plugin locally there as part of building your own. And that's basically what you do to test it out and see if the plugin is how you want it to be. And then once you've validated it and it's working as you want it to, then you can submit it to be included in the GitHub repo. And then once that's accepted, it gets built into the 1Password CLI, into the builds, and it's distributed with 1Password CLI. And it's really as soon as you install the latest version of 1Password CLI, it's there for everyone to use. That's also maybe a good moment to mention that we talked a little bit about betas and stables on this call. So just to clarify there, the contribution process, that's what's in beta right now. So submitting to that GitHub repo, but as soon as it's accepted there and in those in the 1Password CLI builds, it's all stable and there's no, you don't have to be concerned about the plugin going away or anything like that. It will be there forever. So yeah, just wanted to preempt that in case there were concerns. So the only reason that the process is in beta is that we're actively looking for your feedback on the contribution process and wanting to hear your thoughts on how we can improve. So that's why there's still a beta label on that.
Okay, great. One last call for questions from those on this Zoom call. If you have one, please put your hand up or go ahead and go on unmute and ask our panel. I'm gonna guess it's a no, or at least not for now. A couple of ways we want to connect, a couple of ways to keep the conversation going. We do have our docs that have been referenced. Thanks to Amanda for putting in the chat. That link is right there. And then also do visit our repo. We have an active team of 1Password employees that are monitoring that and conversing with everyone on that repo. So file a PR, file an issue, do join us. And then also for more real-time chat, if you have a question, maybe you're trying to get onboarded and you get stuck, or you have an idea and you want to flesh it out, do join us on Slack. We have a developer Slack that we do have a shell plugins channel dedicated to this, along with other channels for our CLI, for our SSH agent. We have even one for TypeShare, which is a new Rust utility that we released a few weeks ago. So do join us there. We're all there chatting and having conversations. I did get a piece of feedback in the chat that this link that I've posted for the Slack, the join link for the dev Slack isn't working. So I will be sure that by the time we send out the follow-up email, which will be probably later today, if not tomorrow, I'll be sure that that link is working. And then also, you can also email me if you want to be added to the Slack. My email is jason.harris@agilebits.com. Again, that's jason.harris@agilebits.com. So I think we're going to close it out. I really want to thank our panel, Amanda, Simon, and Kanad. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for everyone who joined the call today. We are going to be posting this to our YouTube channel. So feel free to look it up, and we will be sending out a recording if you want to share it with other people. So thanks everyone, and special thanks to Amanda, Simon, and Kanad. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Bye.